Okay, Q&A numero 12 is here. Before we get to the questions and answers, I would like to tip my hat towards the Regent 1519. I'm sorry, your name is very confusing. Who suggested I make Q&A master list so that people could look at what questions were already answered in which episode, hopefully ensuring there won't be constant repeats. As such, the master list of all questions asked will be in the video description. You can check it out there. As usual, if your Q&A wasn't answered, you either ask a question that I couldn't answer or didn't know how to, it would spoil the future plotlines, or you intentionally or not put two questions instead of one, and as such, your comment was ignored. Do make sure that you are asking one question and not more than that. Now to the first question from... oh good heavens, this name. Irgindiergentwo8420. Sorry, my guy, what the hell is this name? What the hell is this? Sorry, no, I have no idea how to pronounce it in any way, shape or form. Anyway, Q&A. Are you planning on having a significant in-universe time skip between seasons? A relatively small one, like a month, maybe two. But season 2 in general will have multiple time skips, as we are moving forward in plot, in relations between factions, towards the, grand war between the Tau and the Huts. Season 1 is very dense in terms of event because, well, it is first contact. It is the moment where the Commonwealth and the Tau and many characters establish themselves in the galaxy and relations between factions. After Battle of Rune, I feel I will be able to do multiple time skips as we are pushing towards the third season, where the conflict between the Tau and the Huts will begin in earnest. And this is no spoiler, I said it in my Versus videos long before this series came to be, that a conflict between Tau and the Huts is inevitable, so again, this is shouldn't be surprise to anyone. But I hope that even though you know that this conflict will happen, the question how exactly it will begin will still be interesting. Anyway, next question from Zodiac Star Leagues. Q&A, how would people react to the War Ghosts? I know for a fact that the Jedi would see it as the fate worse than death, as you lose any connection to the Force, though curious about overreactions. Many layers to this question. As you said, the Jedi would see the ghosts of any kind, not just war ghosts. Remember that the transformation into AI isn't restricted to fire warriors. Other castes and possibly other species do that as well. Ironically, the Sith would have very similar reaction to the Jedi because, well, immortality is something a lot of Sith seek sooner or later, but they want to, be immortal and keep their power. Becoming an AI, a ghost, in the machine would strip them of that. So, for example, Palpatine would internally despise ghosts. As for the most of the galaxy, I think I showed how they would treat ghosts through Rune partisans. You see in their reactions, they didn't take the enduring spirit seriously, they thought it was a joke, that they were mocked by the Tau. Even before the Clone Wars, where the hatred towards droids spiked, the droids weren't really, liked or really respected throughout the galaxy. So the idea that you could, accomplish some kind of immortality, more or less, by transforming into a droid would be a hard pill to swallow for majority of the galaxy. In fact, I think most people would see it as a perversion, as something blasphemous, basically, against the rule of reality, against the rules of life. I would expect even more hostile reactions than those of the partisans. But all in good time, all in good time. The wider galaxy will get a chance to interact with ghosts of many kind sooner than you might think. Okay, next question from Landler98. First off, your series is awesome. Oh, thank you very much. Now to the question, how many droids of the Trade Federation / Separatist Alliance do you think it would take our world in the modern day? Disregarding orbital assists, since both, unlike the Empire, do tend to not do that. Mate, this isn't really a time and a place to ask this kind of question, and I ain't a guy, capable of really answering, but okay, let's think about it for a second. I can't guess with the Separatist Alliance. Separatist Alliance is very powerful, has very diverse types of droids, so I can't figure out how many droids would Separatists, the CIS, need. But with the Trade Federation, and more specifically the Trade Federation from the Phantom Menace, with their level of, military, I think it will be easier because, they mostly have B1s. Okay, let's give it the best shot. How many soldiers are in the world currently? Ooh, 27 million, that's quite a lot. Okay, 27 soldiers on Earth, planet-wide, more or less. Officially, of course. Probably far more unofficial ones, policemen, mercenaries, freedom fighters, etc., etc. Yeah, we could probably count a far bigger number, but let's focus on the official 27 million soldiers. I think to conquer Earth, they would need like a 3 times the number of droids than their soldiers. So let's put it on the safe side at around 90 million. Sure, they do have technological advantage, but we also see that B1s deployed by the Trade Federation during the Naboo crisis aren't the smartest of them as, of droids in the galaxy. The conquest of Earth itself, while challenging, wouldn't be impossible, but occupation. Oh damn, the occupation is... oh, it would be hard. I mean, there are regions on this planet where people are basically specialized in dealing with any type of occupiers. And I'm not even going into the difficult environment and amount of people that are on Earth. I mean, for reference, Naboo population is about half of that of Earth, and majority of Naboo population are Gungans who are hiding in underwater cities. In terms of humans, there is slightly above 1 billion of them on the planet, so around 1/8 of population of Earth, and it was a population that wasn't nearly as militarized as that of Earth today. And Trade Federation needed quite a lot of droids to occupy the planet. Almost 1 million, in fact. So yeah, the Trade Federation would have to mobilize a significantly bigger fleet than that which attacked Naboo, and prepare for a very bloody and very costly occupation if they succeed in the end. And that also isn't certain with the quality of their commanders. I could imagine a viceroy or one of the high-ranking members of the Trade Federation looking at the losses they suffered on Earth and it's just going full Hando Onaka. This effort is no longer profitable! Okay, next question. From Sam PB8HU. Okay, fun name. Q&A. When the separatist crisis begins, 3 years from now, I think, will any separatist systems join the Tau rather than Dooku's Confederacy? The Tau are actually taking the fight to slaver pirates, and now the cartels like the Trade Federation. For what matter, will any conflict worlds defect to the Tau after Dooku recruits the Trade Federation, Corporate Alliance, and other corporations? I am actually surprised by this question. I thought that most people were aware of the realities of this period. But then again, not all people are that interested in reading comics and books. So, okay, let me give you some background. Yes, the United Separatist Movement will indeed begin 2 years before the Clone Wars and 3 years from current timeline we are right now in the story, more or less. However, the turmoil, the separatists or pre-separatist movements were forming long before that. A great example of that is placed in the novel, a great novel by the way, Out by Flight by Timothy Zahn, the same guy who wrote the Throne trilogy. Great book and audiobook. I honestly say that every Star Wars fan should listen or read it. But yeah, anyway, Outbound Flight is happening around the same time as Season 1. Or more precisely, it happened just before the Great Displacement, more or less. However, the project itself began 2 years before that, in 29 BBY. And it is noted in the narrative, in the story itself, that crew of the Outbound Flight, not just the pilots and soldiers, but also colonists, their families, their children, joined this project because they saw the upcoming turmoil and potential civil war in the Republic and wanted to get the hell out of the galaxy. They literally chose to travel to the different galaxy on Outbound Flight rather than to stay and see what the hell will happen with the Republic. And they intentionally joined this project 7 years before the Clone Wars and 2 years before the Great Displacement and the launch of Outbound Flight. So the signs, the red flags that something was going down were very visible to the common people of the galaxy. So of course, with the Tau showing strong stance against slavers, pirates, corporations and, abuse of the Outer Rim, offering better standards of living, hope for true progress, true development, true wealth in the Outer Rim, of course, many star systems will turn to them. Many of them will secede, break away from the Republic, and rather than join some kind of separatist movement, they will join the Commonwealth. By all accounts, it's very predictable. The Commonwealth offers a better deal than the Republic or the CIS. But what is important here? The upcoming Battle of Rouen and many other upcoming events will shake not only this region of the galaxy where the Tau reside, but the Outer Rim and galaxy as a whole. So, when the Separatist crisis begins in earnest, when hundreds and then thousands of worlds start to break away, secede from the Republic, the secession might grow to far greater degree than in the canonical Star Wars, because of the influence of the factions from the grim, dark galaxy. I do not believe any of us, even myself, could appreciate how many ripples, how great of influence the arrival of so many different factions would have on the balance of power on the galactic disk. So yeah, expect that the Clone Wars might be bigger than you remember, and that the Separatist crisis might be bigger than in original story. But again, everything in good time. As you said, we have few years to the Separatist crisis and even more to the Clone Wars. A lot will happen before that. Okay, I hope this is satisfying answer enough. Let's go to the next question from Tia Goe Milio 7204. How is Anakin reacting to the current developments? Well, he is currently very busy with the crisis on Radnor and doesn't really know specific of what is happening. He is, again, very busy. But when he will find out about all the details, you can be sure he won't be happy with the Republic trying to stop the Tau from destroying a slaver tyrant, because of obvious reasons. But at the same time, Anakin isn't really that trusting of the Tau or their intentions and them messing around in this region of the galaxy. Tatooine, where his mother lives, isn't that far away, and with the Tau clearly gunning against the Hutts, she might end up in the crossfire. So he is conflicted. As usual, our dear chosen one is a very conflicted cookie. Okay, next question from Daka Z4X. Q&A: will we see any psychic power in the Battle of Rune or the space battle? Space battle? I do not believe there is any reason for me to show off psychic powers in a void battle. But on Rune itself, yeah, maybe there are some psychers that will be deployed, though not that many. Battle of Scarif, where the Blackthorns are going, there you can expect Lina Vos and Magnar to show off their psychic abilities. But again, all in good time. Patience, my good friends, patience. Alright, next question from Nikos. Oh, hello. If the Great Displacement never took place, what do you think it would be the fate of the Blackthorns post the 4th expansion? They would be fine? Like, you do know that the 4th sphere of expansion, yes, caused a lot of Tau to become xenophobic, but those Tau are stuck on the other side of a star-tide nexus, and those ideas don't really reach or influence the main Tau Empire? So add to that the Blackthorns don't take part in the 4th sphere, so yeah, they would be fine. They wouldn't be influenced really by the 4th sphere in any significant way. I mean, outside of typical 40k stuff, the wars against the Imperium, the Great Rift splitting the galaxy. I do not believe that there would be anything, major for the Black Forms. They wouldn't be destroyed by chaos forces of the Imperium if that's what you are asking for. Like, I have no idea what answer did you expect. But yeah, overall, they would be just fine. Okay, random question. Next one. From Seamus Brennan C5E. Okay, strange name. Q&A. What would the Tau think of the Collicolid and their druid models? You mean those aliens that were responsible for droidecas and other strange droids? I think that they would be overall impressed with them and their designs. Droidecas are called the Destroyers for a reason. They are famously a threat even to the Jedi, even to the Jedi Master, which is, a big deal. So yeah, the Earthcast without a doubt would like to have exchange of technologies or try to get inspiration from their design, because clearly they did something right. Okay, next question from Ivan Torres 641. What is the current opinion the Tau have on Palpatine? Ooh, now that's a very fun question. I think that currently they believe in what he presents himself to be. That he is an overall, or at the end of the day, good-hearted, hard-working man struggling against the impossible task of facing the corruption, bureaucracy and the incompetence of the Republic and all the systems that keep it working, quote-unquote. Yes, the Ethereals and Watercast are skilled in what they are doing, but, and that's important, Palpatine managed to hide his true nature, not only from Jedi, but also normal people. Very, very few had enough skill or insight to even suspect him of anything, and even then, it was later on in the timeline, when his mask, slipped few times here and there, or if they interacted with him long enough and started figuring out his, manipulation and techniques. But we are nowhere near that. So, yeah, for now, the Tau are fooled, just like basically everyone else. Okay, next question from Jason Ang 2101. Q&A. How long would it take for military forces in the Star Wars galaxy to absorb/adapt to 40k military strategy and ideas? With the Tau expansion on the horizon, their capabilities will be increasingly known. For example, will mercenaries from the displacement be hired to train clones while Kamino is still not revealed? Interesting question. Okay. I can assure you that a lot of people will be taking notes. But taking notes and actually implementing them in a realistic way isn't really something the Republic or even most star systems can handle right now. I'm not even talking about the budget or the willingness to do so. The problem is far deeper. You must understand that good portion of the Tau society and economy is focused on the expansion and waging wars, which predictably isn't something most systems could do in the short amount of time. Reforming an army isn't something that can happen overnight. It could take several years, if not a decade, to do so. But in this case, we are not really talking about military reform. We are talking about building military from ground up, total reorganization and modernization of military. Do you know how long similar modernizations took in our world on a single planet? Modernization of Japanese military after Meiji Restoration took 2 decades. Modernization of South Korean military, 3 decades. Even if you look at more optimistic and faster reforms, it still takes at least a decade, usually. And that's with a single nation on a single planet. Not a planet-wide effort, not a star system, not a sector-wide effort. We are talking about the galactic republic here. Such modernization would take decades. And ironically, we see it in Star Wars. What I'm describing matches the reality of Star Wars, because the clone army wasn't really created by the Republic. It was given to them by the Kaminoans, or, well, by Palpatine, by the Sith, yeah? But anyway. And if you look at the command structure and organization of the clone army, of the Grand Army of the Republic, it was a total bloody mess. You can find several videos that show how convoluted, complicated, and totally maddening the organization of the Grand Army of the Republic really was. And yet, as much as of an organizational mess the Grand Army of the Republic was, it was well organized compared to the absolute insanity of how the local security forces looked. And after the Clone Wars, after the rise of the Galactic Empire, we see that even by the time of the original trilogy, despite all the reforms of the modernization, after the creation of imperial military juggernaut, it still wasn't the most efficient of militaries. In fact, it had a lot of weaknesses, a lot of cracks, which were exploited by the Rebel Alliance to great effect. So think about it. In universe, 22 years have passed between the start of the Clone Wars and the beginning of the original trilogy. And if we are generous, we could say that the great reform, the great modernization of imperial military ended right before the original trilogy. Or if we are less generous, we could say that the process of modernization and reform wasn't finished before the Emperor met his end. So, if you expect that the wider galaxy or even individual star systems will manage to modernize their military before the Clone Wars, nope, they won't. And look, even if we had extremely optimistic approach that they saw the Battle of Roon, which would be the first real display of Tau military might that they could witness personally, and the moment they do, they rush into full modernization, only star systems with already relatively robust military structure could potentially reform their military. But majority of the star systems, majority of factions, and most definitely Galactic Republic, no way, no how. And again, that's optimistic approach, assuming that they rush into modernization right after the Battle of Roon, which is unlikely because, political will, the desire for things to stay the same, corruption, you name it. Modernization of military, the reform of military is very expensive thing. And with the separatist crisis on the horizon, with the turmoil in the galaxy, uncertainty about trade and availability of resources, yeah, most factions can't hope to even attempt full military modernization or even a proper military reform. As for Camino and mercenaries being used to train the clones, no way, no how. Remember, the mercs that are used to train the clones were relatively trusted by Jango Fett. The mercs you speak of? Jango doesn't know them. He has no idea if they could be trusted. Hell, if they can be bought by credits, there is no guarantee that they would really be interested in the public currency. So, sure, the mercenaries that are training could take a closer look on the Tau, try to adopt and adapt to what they see, but it's like split. They are stuck mostly on Camino and can't go to visit the Tau space and really observe the Tau military and how they operate firsthand. So, would some changes be implemented to that clone army? Sure, some of them. But do not expect miracles. Remember that the clone army is basically already created. The clones need to grow up, sure, but the armor, the weapons, the vehicles, everything that they will be using is already in production. So again, do not expect some ground changes to the military because there simply isn't enough time to make significant changes to the project at this stage. This project was planned out to go through an entire decade. You can't flip the script 5 years into the project. That would not work. So yeah, think about the time scale we are talking about here. The scale of a challenge. It's not something that can be resolved easily. Okay, next question from Green Knight 343. Q&A. What are your favorite and least favorite parts of creating your own characters for the series? Damn, okay, from the least favorite thing, it's being worried that, okay, the idea of a character in mind sounds cool, but how does it look on paper? You know, cleaning it up, making sure it's not power fantasy, that it fits the narrative, the story, that it doesn't break the cohesion of a narrative. That's a lot of pain to make sure that if I don't accidentally wreck my own story by introducing a character or two. And the favorite part without a doubt is when I see them visualized through art. You have no idea how giddy I get when I see artists manifest my ideas into something I can see with my own eyes. To see my character take a colorful form is so very rewarding to me. This is something I absolutely adore. The ability to actually look my character in the eye and say, yeah, you will work well for the story. Okay, next question from Darth Sonic 4135. How would the Blackthorn Mechanicus react to the Sky River droids? On one hand, the fact that the sapience of many of them seems almost accidental may be used as proof of machine spirits. On the other hand, Men of Aaron. Okay, first of all, the name of the sect is the Covenant of the Aryan Rose. That's the name. of the Mechanicus sect that is allied to the Blackthorns. You can see their symbol on Cerberus chassis. And this sect are Zenerite heretics. They are heretics, or by Mechanicus standards, not warp focused, with Dark Mechanicus, but with Xenos technology and, working with Xenos. Again, I'm a little bit surprised by your question because they work with Tau, and the Tau use AI, they use drones, they use entities very similar to, droids from Star Wars. So no, they won't freak out because, oh no, Men of Iron. No. They won't be tickled by this. The fact that the droids either truly feel or simulate emotions, and that they feel pain, that would tickle them wrong, because one of the truths of the machine cult is that through accepting machine over flesh, you strip limitations of the flesh, including pain. So the fact that machines have simulated physical pain would be seen as almost perverse. They would be very conflicted about them, but generally you can expect them to have similar approach to that of the Earthcast, being mostly confused and a little bit disturbed by how wrong the droids of this galaxy are. Okay, next question from Rai Mohanty 7777. Okay. Q&A. Will we ever find out in-universe reason for the Taos Empire's displacement into the Sky River galaxy? The Mortis Gods, the result of an ancient artifact weapon, the Force warp itself, or even something or someone from 40k kicking them out, either unintentionally or intentionally. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Maybe it's because I didn't really think of any other reason that the author, me that is, decided to yeet them to a different universe. That's the real reason, but there is no in-universe reason why this happened. It's just accident. It just happened. There are no gods, no artifacts, no Mortis Gods, no Force or warp itself deciding to eat the Tau across the universes. No. It's just a freak accident. It simply just happened. At least for now. Maybe in the future I will come up with some eldritch explanation, but no, for now it just happened. Maybe not the most satisfying of answers in history, but I think that there is a place for, that something could happen without any real reasons in the narrative. The world is crazy enough. Why not something so insane as this to happen without any real reason or intention? Okay, next question from Brian McClure2220. Q&A, can you rank your favorite to least favorite Warhammer 40k factions? A bit out of blue, but sure, easy enough to answer. Tau Empire, Imperial Guard, Necrons, Mechanicus, Imperial Knights, Orcs, Eldari and Harlequins, Sisters of Battle, Space Marines, Chaos Demons and Chaos Marines, Drukhari, Tyranids, Custodies, Grey Knights, Gene Stealers. That's the list. You can officially crucify me in the comments if you wish. Okay, last question from Juan Pablo Arayo 5583. Hello again. Q&A, how do you feel about people who claim that the Imperium of Man is justified in everything it does, despite it's supposed to be the worst regime in human history. Oh boy! A fun and very non-controversial question for the end of Q&A. Thanks for that. Okay, I think that those people are proof that we are not, in fact, immune to propaganda, even though it is stated clearly and to their faces that the Imperium is the worst regime in human history. They buy into the epic narrative, heroic poses of the Space Marines and Imperial propaganda, snorting Emperor's farts right from his rotting asshole. Not to mention that they ignore wider lore, because we do have numerous examples that not only there are friendly aliens, but several powerful civilizations where humans and Xenos coexisted were a thing. The Tau Empire is literal proof that multiple Xenos species and humans can coexist together, can work together towards common goal, and have far better living standards than vast majority of Imperial citizens. Hell, in terms of scale of abuse a typical Imperial citizen experiences, those chuckle nuts ignore the realm of Ultramar. You know, the shining beacon of well-maintained Imperial space, where the scale of pain and abuse inflicted upon typical citizen is far smaller than in the majority of the Imperium, and yet this far less cruel realm is also one of the more powerful, and well, excluding the Segmentum Solar itself, but that's kinda given. I would love for those believers in the Imperium to be transported to it for a week. 1 week. And see if their opinion changed after that. Assuming, of course, they survived the experience, which is unlikely. And with that, I believe that's it for today. Work on 10k special and next episode of Your Homebrews continues. After I finish with those, I will move on to the episode 16 of the Star Wars X Warhammer 40k series. Until then, stay tuned and stay safe out there.